It's time now for the political analysis of Fromm and Fuller. Al Fromm, former political advisor to Bill Clinton, and Craig Fuller, former political advisor to Presidents Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. Good morning, all. Al, I think that there's been an interesting news development in the fact that President Trump has decided to take on a used 747 thanks to the country of Qatar. And it raises all sorts of questions, ethical and otherwise, but it also raises, at least I'm noticing, this emerging resistance within even the Republican Party. And that this might, in my mind, be a gate opener for people to be less scared of Donald Trump and be able to, find a more independent path. What's your thoughts?
I wouldn't get my hopes up too high. We've been having that hope since the Access Hollywood tape in 2016, that at some point the Republican Party would find backbone, and we're still waiting. I mean, this guy has been corrupt for every minute he's been in public life and probably in private life too. Look, I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole record, but just starting with no tax returns, which every presidential candidate has had. He keeps everything, his business dealings, all a secret. In the first term, I must say his grift was much more subtle than it is now. But unlike any other president, he said, he wouldn't divest, but then he did promise that he wouldn't do any foreign deals with his company. So instead of doing foreign deals for real estate, he bilked both the U.S. government by making the Secret Service and everybody else who traveled for the government stay in Trump hotels for his profit, and made foreign travelers stay and have events in his hotels. But as Bill Kristol wrote actually today in the Bulwark, his Bulwark newsletter, he's a lot less subtle about his corruption in the second term. It's straight out in the open, and he hadn't made any bones about it. I mean, he starts by demonstrating his adherence to the rule of law by pardoning all the rioters on January 6th, including those who beat up police officers. Look, in this term, he's basically said, I'm for sale. And I want everybody to know it because, he basically has an advertising campaign for people to give him money. I mean, the conflicts of interest are too many to go through, and with Trump and Elon Musk, who does so much business with the government and is, gotten basically gotten information systems and through his Doge scam that allow him to just manipulate government contracts, probably. But Trump starts by his first act was to fire the watchdogs, fire all the inspector generals who were in charge of finding corruption. But in every department, he stopped investigations of corruptions. Usually he fires the people who are doing the investigations. And he's made the Justice Department the Department of Retribution and Political Favors. I mean, it's really so bizarre. And then, as I think we talked about last week or the week before, this crypto meme scam is the most blatant corruption I can ever imagine. Basically, he's created this paper profits deal where he gets money. And if you want favor with Trump and the government, all you have to do is fork over tens of millions of dollars, and you can come to a dinner to invest in his phony company or whatever it is on crypto. And basically, he gets about 70% of the money into his own pocket. And I mean, I just can't imagine announcing corruption like that and not having any reaction. But so far, we haven't really gotten much of reaction. And this trip is a business trip. It's a business trip for Trump. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, in almost every country he's visited, his two law-abiding sons have cut deals for Trump properties. I mean, basically, all the deals he makes are for his own benefit. He's upended our policies in the Middle East, our interest in things like democracy and human rights, because all these oil-rich countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the rest are willing to give him big bribes, basically, give him a lot of money. In 2002, and I might add this was at a DLC event, President Clinton said, when people are feeling insecure, they'd rather have someone who is strong and wrong than somebody who is weak and right. Well, to me, that describes the Republicans in the Congress. They are insecure. They're afraid Trump will primary them, and actually for good reason. The other news that didn't get quite as much attention this week was the polling in the Senate primary in Texas. Here you have John Cornyn, a loyal, Republican, number 2 in the Republican leadership in the Senate, and he's running against, or he's being challenged in the primary by a Trumpy, Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, who was impeached by the Republican House in Texas. And Paxton is up by 16 points. No wonder they're scared. So will the grossness of accepting a $400 million plane from Qatar, which funds Hamas and has been a haven for terrorist leaders, and I might say, much to my chagrin, I've been over there because they also fund 6 American universities to exorbitant tune, including my university, Northwestern. I hope we can cut off this deal. But anyway, is that, accepting that gift going to turn Republicans against Trump? I wouldn't hold my breath.
Craig, you're our aviation expert. There is some justification of replacing Air Force One. The 747s are 35 years old. But it certainly comes with a lot of baggage. And back to the original question, is this a moment of a break with his Republican colleagues?
I think this airplane fiasco is different. Probably because it's so easily understood. You can't accept a $400 million aircraft and from a foreign government and simply because you want the newest, best airplane on the ramp. There's an element of narcissism here that is like beyond anything we've seen. And President Trump literally talks about how he wants to go on the ramp and see one of the newest 747s. But this is wrong on many levels. Let me first address the question you asked about the airplane. People are flying around today in beautifully conditioned, good shape, long-distance flights in World War II aircraft. It's this whole notion that the aircraft is 40 years old really doesn't explain, the way Air Force One 747s are maintained and cared for. They also don't fly the kind of operations that a commercial 747 flies. Namely, they're not going back and forth to Europe every day or across the country every day. So the landings and takeoffs are far fewer than a regular aircraft. I really, from my experience, and I've never been on the 747 presidential aircraft, Air Force One, but I've flown on many older aircraft, either as Air Force One or Air Force Two, that are beautifully maintained. And so the notion that somehow the aircraft he's on are too old, not safe, is ridiculous. That's point one. Point two is the deal is absurd, even if it was legal, which I believe it is not, because the government has already taken possession of 2 brand new 747 aircraft, the kind that he wants, the larger version on top. It's in a multi-billion-dollar deal Boeing and the government are finishing the work on these aircraft. You might say, well, wait a minute, if the aircraft costs $400 million, why is it a multi-billion-dollar deal? It's because they rebuild the entire aircraft. They harden it to make it impervious to explosions or nuclear devices. They rewire it. Hundreds of miles of wire have to completely go into these aircraft. So they receive a 747 that Boeing could sell to anybody, and they spend a few years working on this, and the process slowed down for reasons that I'm sure we'll better understand. But the point here is taking a used but newer 747 and giving it to the government is going to require them to do all the retrofitting and make all the changes that they've been working on for the last few years on these two new aircraft, which cost us, a couple $1 billion. So it makes no sense. But the real problem, and I tend to agree with you that you're seeing more resistance to this by members of Congress who on camera are raising questions about it. On camera, Senator Thune is raising questions about it, and this is something new. Now, they don't have anything to vote on at this point. They're just saying there's questions. It's got to be looked into, because I'm guessing they don't want to, poke the president in the eye with their comments, but they want to send the signal that Congress is not really there for him to endorse this. And for a couple of reasons there. One, there's no member of Congress today who can accept a free flight on a business jet. They have to pay something to use a business aircraft. So they can't accept a single free flight. And you've got the president of the United States talking about accepting a 747 aircraft. So they're going to have a very hard time getting their minds around that. But they also are hearing from people back home. Again, it goes back to the first point. This is an easily understood act of corruption. Al referred to the cryptocurrency, World Liberty Financial company that the Trump family has formed. In many ways, I think that is worse, because you've got foreign billionaires spending millions of dollars to get access. But the airplane, that's complicated, but the airplane's easily understood. Lastly, and this is strictly political, it makes no sense, because look at the damage he does to a trip in which he's doing some rather interesting substantive things. Yes, he's making a lot of deals, but every day is a report about this aircraft. And heaven forbid if he ever found a way to get the aircraft, which I think would have to take a congressional action, every time he would use that aircraft, there'd be a story about how this was an aircraft that Qatar gave him. So at some point, I just think it falls of its own weight, so to speak. Or maybe I should use the metaphor, it won't get off the ground, but I can't imagine we're actually going to take possession of this aircraft for all those reasons.
Al, I want to switch gears here. It's early bird season in the Democratic Party. We're seeing people like Governor Pritzker and Secretary Buttigieg and Governor Beshear and even Rahm Emanuel from Chicago is looking around and somehow winding up in New Hampshire these days. What's your early take?
Well, it's too early, but I just want to say one more thing about the Republicans and the airplane. I'll believe Senator Thune is serious about it when he opens the investigation. The sort of the mealy mouth sort of condemnation that came from him and from Speaker Johnson. Speaker Johnson seems to think it's okay because it's out in the public. So a midday armed robbery on the street with people watching is okay because it's out in the public. I mean, what nonsense. Look, it's too early to say anything. I mean, we have people, everybody wants to be president, but I just point to, if we were in, this point, May of 1989, nobody would have thought Bill Clinton was going to be the nominee. Mario Cuomo, other people were running around going to be the nominee. You had a bunch of people who'd run in 1988 who might be the nominee. In 2005 in May, I'm pretty sure that people thought Hillary Clinton and not Barack Obama, who they'd never even heard of, were going to be the nominee. We will have a nominee, but the Democratic Party has some big problems. We have to go through what we did in the period between 1985 and 1992. I don't think we don't have to do it over 2 cycles, but we certainly have to do it over 1, and that is redefine our party, go back to the first principles that once made the Democrats a majority party: opportunity for all, asking people to give something back to their country, trying to bring the American people together. If we do that, making the country secure again. If we do that, and we'll get a nominee. We have a lot of talent. We're not even going to know what the field's going to be like until after the elections this year and next. We're going to elect 2 really attractive governors this year, probably in Virginia with Abigail Spanberger, and in New Jersey. That's a little more contested, but we're likely to get a good candidate out of there. So the field's going to be different. Josh Shapiro will have been reelected. Wes Moore will have been reelected, probably. So I think it's fun to have people go around and give the press something to speculate. 24-hour news has a lot of space to fill, but none of it means very much at this point.
Greg, what's your take? Is it all kind of the regular suspects? And
Well, a lot of the regular suspects get mentioned, and they work hard to get the mention because it benefits them in a number of ways. I agree with Al. It's too early and to really, start placing any bets. But I do think he and I have both been through the process, and the Clinton one is really interesting. Actually, even Bush in the '88 campaign, it really started for us, for the Bush campaign, right after the '86 midterm elections. In many ways, that's when the campaign kind of gets going. But in reality, all these people are going to be looked at as they travel the country going into next year, leading up to the midterm elections. Who can get the biggest crowds? Who can raise the most money for their Democratic colleagues and running for these offices? And those are the people that end up coming out of the midterm election process and going into the presidential race that have a much stronger foothold. So you look at somebody like J.B. Pritzker, who's got a lot of money, can travel around, can get with people and raise money for people. I think that helps him in that regard. Andy Bashir is going to be the head of the governors and Democratic governors, so he's going to have a national platform to travel around on. And so I look at who's going to have that platform, like Bill Clinton did, and emerge from that. Gavin Newsom in California. A governor of California always has advantages. He's a governor of a big state, and he certainly is that. He's talking about some limits on funding for immigrants. He's taking thoughtful positions on issues that I'm sure are aimed at his California constituency, but have a kind of a national flavor. I also think, and I know Al won't like this, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, has demonstrated that she can go out and build crowds and give very, tough speeches. And so will she actually run for president? She turned down the opportunity to serve as chair or lead the Democratic leader of the Oversight Committee in the House. And to run for president, she'd have to give up the House seat. So, but my guess is she'll test the waters for a while and be out there. But it's this process, and so what the media like to report on is when candidates encourage the speculation about themselves. The question is, what are they actually going to do between now and the November midterm elections next year to help Democrats, or on the Republican side to help Republicans, and build that reputation as somebody who can, reach a larger constituency, bring people out, and raise money. Those are the kinds of things I'd look for in this. And the media speculation for now, I think, is a little premature.
You know what? I want to just let me add to that. I mean, I think the you know the Democratic candidate who's going to finally emerge is going to be somebody who can make sense and not just noise. Crowds don't matter because Walter Mondale had enormous crowds, and how'd he do against you guys? He did win Minnesota, his home state. They don't matter. You can always organize a crowd. I think we're going to have an interesting test this year. I call it the Virginia test. Who will Abigail Spanberger ask to campaign for her? Because the question isn't whether you can get people excited in dark blue districts if you're a Democrat. It's whether you can win swing districts that will help win the presidency. Virginia is one of those states. If Abigail Spanberger is campaigning with AOC at her side for the fall, I'll take another look at AOC. But until she passes that Virginia test, I think she will get everybody excited, in deep blue Democratic districts, and she'll get the press excited because she's great on TV. But until she can have a message that will have appeal beyond deep blue districts, and until she can pass that Virginia test, I wouldn't think she's going to have much chance to be president.
Well, we really do have to leave it there. Al Fromm, Craig Fuller, thanks so much indeed. We will see you next week.